In the gospel this morning, we heard the parable of the rich man and Lazarus. Lazarus was a beggar who lay out by the gate of a rich man, and he longed just to eat the scraps that may fall from that rich man's table. That rich man lived in all the fine things, and he ate sumptuously, and he had a wonderful life there. But in the course of time, both men died, and we learned that angels came and took Lazarus to the bosom of Abraham, where he would then repose in comfort, while the rich man went to a hell in which he was tormented in pain and in flames. When the rich man saw Lazarus afar off in the bosom of Abraham, he called and said, "Father Abraham, send Lazarus to but dip the tip of his finger in water, that my tongue may be soothed for an instant." But he learned from our father Abraham that he, while he lived in comfort, was now in torment, and Lazarus, while he lived in torment, was now in comfort. And there was an abyss fixed between the two. No one can pass between. The rich man said, "Then at least send him to my 5 brothers, so that they may not end up in this same predicament." And Abraham told him, "They have Moses and the prophets." And he said, if they do not listen to Moses and the prophets, they will not listen even if someone were to rise from the dead. Now, at first glance, this may seem to be a parable about death and the afterlife. Instead, it is entirely about this life and the implications for how we may live it. In the final analysis, we learn all we need about these men from how they are named. Notice the rich man, he had a name, but we don't learn it in this parable because it doesn't matter. He is the rich man. That is where his heart was focused in life. We learn the name of the beggar, Lazarus. This was not the Lazarus that Jesus raised from the dead. The name in Hebrew, Eliezer, is a fairly common name, and it means God is my strength. In the end, Lazarus focused on God. It did not matter what kind of life he may live in torment. He was destined for glory in the presence of God. Notice also that the rich man, although he finds himself in the end of his life in that torment, he was not thoroughly wicked. Even in that place, he had enough love in his heart for his 5 brothers that he did not want them to face the same torment. We can remember that when we do acts of charity and when we draw near to God in prayer, we can be like Lazarus. And notice, he did not want everything that rich man had. He longed only for the scraps that fell from the rich man's table. And we may deduce from that if Lazarus had received even just that, if the rich man in his generosity had shared but a little of his wealth, instead of being just the rich man who kept it all for himself, he likely would not have met that end. And so let us, like Lazarus, commit ourselves to hold God as our strength and carry out those acts of charity that are precious in God's sight. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.